Is Tyler Shough the day one starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints? New Orleans ready for Kellen Moore era? Ladies and gentlemen, the backdrop, off the bench, T-Bob, Jacob Hester. All right. So I mentioned before that I was excited, personally excited, to see what the other voices in the New Orleans sports media scene, how they took the Tyler Shough draft pick, how they kind of feel about it, what their thoughts are on it, all of that. We've taken a look at New Orleans football, off the bench with the boys, is up next as far as my reactionary skills. So let's go ahead and see what they got to say. T-Bob going with the ultra rare, looks like maybe no buttons. Titties out for the boys, nips out for the boys. The Yetis are out. All right, let's, what the hell am I talking about?
Saints, I thought that was crazy. The New Orleans Saints, also crazy.
I agree.
Guys, they used all of their draft picks, okay? And so I will say this. I want to try to be consistent here. And I said going into this draft, regardless of who they selected, the main thing that I wanted was for them to use all 9 draft picks, try to get as many contributors as you can on this very kind of bare bones roster. Rookie contracts mean more to you now than they do to others, and I'll be damned.
Well, Christmas has come early for T-Bob because that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened was the Saints said, you know what, we got 9 picks, let's make 9 picks. And that was it. And they got 9 players. They got 9 guys. If Shough starts, they will have 9 contributors pretty much immediately. They took experienced guys who have proven they can do it, high character guys, team leaders, team captains. Very obvious what Kellen Moore wanted to do. When you think about everything leading up to the draft was, okay, how do we get younger? How do we get cheaper? And we'll see how they end up. Obviously you got to wait and see how they end up playing on the field. But what we will not see is this will not be a year where it's like, all right, well, 3 of our picks did not see the field at all. They're not even on like practice squad level, special team level. They're not even on the field. I think we will see a majority of these players taking a lot of snaps for the Saints this season.
For the first time in 13 years, they didn't trade up. Now, the crazy thing is, last time they didn't trade up was 2012, but they only had 5 picks.
Yeah.
Because the Ingram trade, because the Bounty Gate suspension. So that's a little... that makes more sense. To have 9 picks and for Mickey not to trade up? Okay. Now we can get into the players, but I'm just saying from where I sit, good job. That's exactly what I wanted. I'll give that 2 thumbs up.
I mean, not to mention, some people have said, well, the Saints don't understand they're in a rebuild, or the Saints are in denial, or Mickey is always trying to win now, or whatever. And I've said, look, you don't trade Marshawn Lattimore. You don't do the things they've done if you believe you aren't in a rebuild. This is another situation. If you're not in a rebuild, you don't approach the draft like this. You don't have 9 picks and just stay put. Don't trade up, don't trade down, take the 9 picks. Their actions are telling you how they are viewing the current era of the New Orleans Saints. They are viewing it as, we got to get younger, we got to get cheaper. Everyone's on the same page as far as the fans and the front office, and what we want them to do, they have done in this draft. No projects, no William and Mary incarnate word draft picks, high level programs, high level producers. If you go on Pro Football Focus, I mean, some of our 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders have like 90 grades. These are high-level producers in college, whether that transfers or not. But this is a very different philosophical approach to the draft than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, you didn't want to package 3 picks for 1. Your roster needs a lot. It needed a lot. And so you get, obviously, a 1st and 2nd round pick, but you get 2 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and you're going to be counting on those 3rd and 4th round picks. Like, they have to help you in this upcoming season. So if you would have traded, away those picks and did like a 4-for-1 just to move up and select somebody in the 2nd round, I don't think that would have behooved you.
No, I agree. I mean, especially, look, man, some of the names you got, dude. I mean, Stutzman, let's go, dude. even like Devin Neal. I loved watching Devin Neal at Kansas.
Devin Neal feels like it's a running back, but still really good value there in the 6th round. I mean,
like, I'll go ahead and tell you now, Devin Neal's going to be the backup running back. So you're getting like starting level linebacker, a lot of the work, a lot of the reps at running back. You're getting him. I mean, like, these are guys who are going. This isn't like, oh yeah, Devin Neal's fun to watch in college, but we'll see what he does on the preseason. It's like, no, he's probably going to be the guy who comes in when Alvin goes out. Like, this is a guy who's going to be out there.
3 straight years of over 1,000 yards.
So that was one of the other themes of the draft was production.
Yeah.
Yes.
All these players productive in college. So this is not a draft that featured a lot of the high potential picks that has caused Saints fans to kind of tear their hair out. Now, obviously, though, we got to talk about Tyler Shough.
Now, real quick before we move on to Shough. So we were wondering, like, what's Kellen going to do? How's he going to approach a draft? We had no clue. Moving forward, this is kind of how you can identify who the Saints will take. If you got a quarterback or whatever position, and one of them's a high potential guy, and one of them's a 3-year starter, team captain, they're going to take that guy. That's how this is going to operate. So next year's draft, I think we're going to have a really good way to indicate who they actually are going to take
at 40, because that is the story for the New Orleans Saints. And I didn't realize this, guys, because we never said it like this going into it. That whole Archie Manning stat, this 1971, it's first and second round.
Yeah. This is Shough is the highest drafted quarterback the New Orleans Saints have had since Archie.
So although they still haven't done a first rounder, they've completed half of it. Now, for the first time since 1971, you drafted a quarterback in the first 2 rounds, getting Shough at 40.
Guys, what was his name? Garrett Grayson. Was he the only 3rd rounder?
That's at Colorado State.
Yeah.
Yep. Maybe Jim McElwain. I can't remember.
To it yesterday. So I'm doing off campus, and in the middle of the show, all of a sudden, Tyler Shough pops up on the Zoom. I'm like, do we Tyler Shough today? I didn't see it on the rundown. Like, nobody said anything. And I'm like looking at my text message. He's sitting there, like, we're in a segment. He's sitting there, and I'm trying not to. And I'm like, did somebody text me? It just happened. He joined the wrong Zoom link.
Oh, wow.
He's going to be.
Had y'all Zoom link just buried in there somewhere?
Because Dennis, our producer, who he is producing Rhett Lewis's like NFL draft. They do it all, pre-draft for a couple of months, and he was joining that show. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you're supposed to be here. It was funny, so we figured it out, but he was cool, man. He sat there and he talked to us for a little bit. One of our producers, Dan, had a Giants hat on, and he pulled like 3 or 4 Saints hats. He's like, I can send you one of these if you want me to.
Hell yeah, dude.
So I had a good little 3-minute conversation with him. Seemed very excited to be drafted by the Saints.
Yeah, seems like he was very pumped up. I mean, he's put out some stuff on social media that's been fun to see. Fun story about Zoom links. I had a meeting with a media group out in Las Vegas, and I had a Zoom link or whatever to join a call. So I hopped on the call. All of a sudden, like 10 people pop on. It's a pretty popular like station, or it's not a station, but it's like a pretty popular media group. And so I knew a lot of the hosts and a lot of the whatever just from being a fan of the group. And all of a sudden they start filling in, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Why are like 15 celebrity hosts like on my screen? And I'm sitting there and they're all chopping it up, and I'm like, I gotta get the hell out of here. And I bounced, and turns out I was sent the wrong link. I was sent a link to like the team brainstorming meeting, not to the individual meeting I was supposed to be in with one of the upper producers.
He seems static. Then he had a quote along the lines of "fight and die" as well when asked about.
Said, "I'll die on the field." Tyler Shough said, "I'll die on the 50 effing yard line."
It's
like, all right, brother, how about you just get a first down? We don't have to die on the field.
Going to do to the city. And here's what I'll say. Before the draft, I found Tyler Shough to be a bit of an unexciting pick, right? He's played 18 years in college. He had the one really good year this last season, but he's all blah, blah, blah. Shooter's got the flash. Milroe's got the speed. But as I continuously said before the draft as well, my opinion doesn't mean anything. I'm not a scout. I'm just here trying to make jokes and be like, look at this, cashews come from apples. So I whose opinion does mean something is Kellen Moore. That man will forget more football twice over and then some than I will ever know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Is that at a certain level, if Kellen Moore is telling you, hey, we're taking Tyler Shough over blank, and you're still sitting there saying Kellen Moore should have done this, it's I don't know, man. You might want to just err to Kellen. You might just want to be okay with whatever he's saying. Will it work out or not is one thing, but I'm okay if my pre-draft grade had Dillon Gabriel over Tyler Shough, and Kellen Moore says no, Tyler Shough's better than Dillon Gabriel, I'm gonna say okay, maybe my draft grades, maybe they were wrong.
And Kellen Moore seems very excited about Shough. And look, I'm not worried about the injuries. It's all broken bones. Those things happen, but there's no real long-term damage from broken bones. That's all well and good. It looks like, so in a funny way, Tyler Shough did the inverse of what Shedeur Sanders did. Because Shedeur Sanders had good.
T-Bob nailed this one. I know where he's going with it, and I agree 100%. 100%. I'll let him go ahead.
Film how those stuff, but through the pre-draft process, through not working out, through god-awful interviews, he destroyed his draft stock.
Yeah.
Tyler Shough, by going, and Moore talked about this, by going to the combine, going to the Senior Bowl, doing everything.
Yeah. Same thing for Jackson Dart.
Interviewing well, showing up well. He maximized his pre-draft process, and he ends up getting drafted 40 of the Saints, damn near a first-round pick.
Yeah.
It does kind of make sense. If you are a coach or a scout or a decision maker, there is something to guys just not doing it. There is something to guys who are I'm not throwing, I'm not running, I'm not working out, I'm not doing the combine, I'm not doing meetings, I'm not prepping. If you want to draft me, look at the tape. And there is something to the guys who are I'll study, I'll run, I'll throw, I'll get ready for the meetings, I'll do what you want to do, I don't care. There is something to that. And we saw that with a lot of different positions where the guys who didn't run, the guys who didn't work out, the guys who didn't do any of that stuff, and then we saw the guys who did and how high they flew up draft charts. I mean, we saw the workout warriors, the RAS stuff. I mean, I think moving forward, if you are a prospect, you probably do need to do something, even if it's just throw, even if it's just run. You don't have to do a full-on Senior Bowl, but just go to the combine, run, do a quick workout, throw around, be ready for your interviews. That seems to be, and it 100% makes sense because you've got these young, innovative, analytical head coaches who they care about that kind of stuff. They are the devils in the details for all of these coaches. This is not a football dudes coaching room like it was in 1985. This is you look at Liam Cohen, and you look at Sean McVay, and you look at Kellen Moore, and you look at Kyle Shanahan, and you look at some of these guys that are around the league, and it's Ben Johnson, I bet these guys do want the numbers. I bet they do. N/A on their draft report probably isn't awesome for the Excel spreadsheet.
I think it's very important to point that out. And I talked to a lot of different people in front offices, even talked to a head coach in the NFL, and they said just that. They said, look, I understand that there's been people before that have, not thrown at the combine. He said, but this class, there was a ton of guys that just didn't do anything. Just did not do anything. And so we appreciated the fact that somebody went out there and we could evaluate it. We had verified times on all the, and not just quarterback, but we had verified times on this guy. So, some of these guys didn't do anything at pro day either. Yeah. So it is a good lesson.
You got a 4.63 40 on Shough.
Yeah, it is. It's a good lesson to go out there and, compete. And then, did y'all go over, Tete Alondra, the timeline of his career yesterday?
So a little bit.
Okay, well, I'll quickly kind of do it here. Okay, so in 2018, that's when he got to Oregon.
Yeah, I know. No, I know.
All right, so in 2018,
Cristobal was his coach.
He redshirted. Juwan Johnson was his tight end at one point in Oregon. He redshirted, played in 3 games as a reserve. Okay, in 2019, played in 5 games as Justin Herbert's backup. In 2020, he ranked 7th in the FBS with 14.7 yards per completion. Started, 7 games in that season.
COVID
2021, he goes from Oregon to Texas Tech. Started the first 4 games, missed the rest of the year with a broken collarbone. Graduated from Oregon in 3 years, decided to transfer to Texas Tech that season.
Texas Tech is
after they signed freshman Ty Thompson. Then Anthony Brown. I don't know if you remember that name.
Were all the injuries at Texas Tech? I'm getting them mixed up now. I think the leg was the last one, right? And that was definitely Texas Tech.
He came in kind of later in the year, so that's why he ended up at Texas Tech. Well, the next year at Texas Tech, plays in 7 games, 5 starts, missed 6 games with a shoulder injury, but he was the Texas Bowl MVP against a good Ole Miss team. Threw for 242 yards, threw a touchdown. So, had some moments in that game as well. 2023 started in the first 4 games, but then he missed the rest of the season with a broken leg.
Yeah,
into the portal after that season as well. Then he goes to Louisville, where he had a hell of a year, throws for almost 3,200 yards, 23 passing touchdowns, completes 63% of his passes. So it's a wild resume to break down, because when he has played, he's played good. Like even going back to 2019, right? Played well when he came in for Justin Herbert. He had another solid year at Oregon. He had some solid years, the beginning of some really good foundation at Texas Tech, but he got injured every time he started to build that foundation. So that is the worry. Now, it does feel like, air quotes, just a one-hit wonder 1 year. But if you actually do a dive into it, he was playing really well. He just could not stay healthy. Yeah. So that is a cause for concern. And I know it's broken bones, but it's like, okay, well, it's still something. Like there's.
Yeah, I mean, and 100%. Like I've heard a lot, and we've said it, where it's like, well, it could be worse. It could be like you're tearing your hamstrings, or you're tearing your knees up, or you're doing like ligament stuff. Like that might just be part of like a re-injury process. I understand that broken bones are different. Like they heal different. They're not usually a long-term thing. But if you are breaking bones at that much of a frequency, and they're all kind of the same, the ankle/fibia was different, because that was like kind of a Conor McGregor thing where a stress fracture turned into something else. But if you're getting hit and getting broken, and then you're going to the NFL, I think it's kind of crazy to be like, well, that won't happen now. That's just a freak thing. It's like, well, I mean, certainly could. Like, it is absolutely a cause for concern. And when you factor in, and this is another like thin margin, razor's edge kind of thing with the age, God forbid, but if Tyler Shough, if something happens, like he's running around 4th game of the season and he breaks his collarbone, he's out for a year. Like when you're 26 and then you'll be 27 the next year, and now you've lost a year to injury, and like that, you don't really have those aren't really afforded to you. Like Joe Burrow, like, he got hurt his first year and everything was fine, but I mean, it was a little different. He's the first overall pick, but Shough has to have a clean start to this. He does not have the time to do what Bryce Young did, which is play, be horrible, get benched, play again. He doesn't have the time to get hurt, rehab for a year, restart, redevelop. He doesn't have the time to sit back. And there's also the big variable of Spencer Rattler, where, okay, let's say you do sit Shough. Like I was just having this conversation yesterday. Let's say you sit Shough for a year or 2 years. Let him develop. Well, then who's playing? Because if Spencer Rattler is playing, what happens if he's good? What happens if he's developing? What happens if he takes a step forward? Do you just pull the ripcord on that for no reason to play Tyler Shough? No. So he has to avoid all of these pitfalls because of the age and because of how this works with the contracts and stuff in the NFL. Just the number in a vacuum, just 26, not that big of a deal. But when you factor in all the other circumstances around him, 26 does become a big deal. So Jacob's right. Like it isn't nothing, but it could be worse. It could be legitimate soft tissue stuff.
Still a history here. Like, I don't think we can hand wave it because it was broken leg, broken collarbone, shoulder injury as well. Can we get him some milk? Can we get him some calcium?
A little osteoporosis. No, I don't. I think so. So injuries are going to be. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. But like Jake said, one of the reasons why they really like him, not only did he finally have a healthy year, but a very good year at Louisville, but that's a more pro-style system. Both the Braun brothers, former NFL quarterbacks that he's training under there. His size is great at 6'5", 220. Kellen Moore specifically referenced the different arm angles he can throw from.
You know what is kind of interesting as well? I just thought about it. But last year was the first year that Tyler Shough has been healthy. And what is the conversation around last year? The conversation is that he threw the ball away 8% of the time. The conversation is that he was not running and taking people on. He was getting down, getting out of bounds, picking up 6-7 yards, and that's it, right? So was last year the first year he was fully healthy because of that? Because he was so risk averse? Because he was taking so little chances? Because that's kind of it's a positive, but it's also a negative. Where it's like, okay, cool, he was healthy, but damn, if that's what you have to do to be healthy, like, you almost want to see him go through a full season where, like, he's getting hit, he's running, he's, like, he drops the throwaway passes down a little bit. Like, you almost want to see him, like, can he be healthy in just a normal year? Or does he have to kind of be bubble wrapped in order to stay healthy?
Which is funny because you have the combine clip where he's like rolling out left and he tries the sidearm and it flutters on him or whatever. But I guess the question becomes, and maybe we'll explore this to end the hour here. Let's get a break on this. Is Tyler Shough the Saints QB1? The first or second round pick selected by the New Orleans Saints, the quarterback position, just Archie Manning in 1971. Oh, here's what it was. Tyler Shough. It's just like what Will Campbell said. Tyler Shough on an Instagram post saying, "God's timing. If it was easy, everyone would do it. New Orleans, you will get everything out of me. I will die on that field for y'all." Is that QB1?
I think he'll have a shot. I think it's going to be him and Rattler. Whoever wins, hell in the cell. I mean, that's what it is. I don't think you say, yeah, no doubt, it's definitely Shough, 100%. Like that seems kind of crazy, but I think him and Rattler will go into camp. Rattler kind of has the jump on him because Rattler has a year of experience. Rattler's already been, as far as I know, Rattler's just lived at the facilities since off-season workouts began. So, I mean, I'm hearing rumors about Rattler putting on 15 pounds of muscle. I'm hearing all this stuff. We already know he's talented, arm talent-wise and stuff. So, Shough is not going to just walk in here and get that job. He is going to walk in here. As funny as this is to say now, when Baker Mayfield went to the Bucs, Kyle Trask was the starting quarterback. He was like, they drafted him to be the next guy. It was his time. And they brought Baker in. And at the time, the conversation was, well, you bring Baker in and you let him kind of compete, and then Trask wins the competition. Okay, you move forward with Trask. And on this channel, y'all can go back and look it up. We said, Baker is not really the kind of guy that's just going to roll over. Baker is an absolute competitor. Baker could win this job. And if he wins that job, you got to kind of get rid of Trask. That's exactly what happened. Baker wins the job. Trask's entire timeline is gone. The development and the future and this, and this, throw it in the trash. No pun intended. Baker gets the contract. Baker's the starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No questions asked. So don't go into this thinking, oh yeah, for sure, Shough is week one. It's all Shough all the time. He's got to beat out a very game Spencer Rattler. And Spencer Rattler is just like Baker, where Spencer Rattler was always the guy. He was a number one prospect for a reason. He was an Elite 11 camp winner for a reason. He was the Senior Bowl MVP for a reason. He was the starter at Oklahoma for a reason, handpicked by Lincoln Riley. All this stuff for a reason. Oh, and he played in 7 NFL games last year with arguably the worst supporting cast since LeBron James' 2005 Cavalier teams. So I would not write off Spencer Rattler with Kelvin Banks, Talise Fuaga, Cesar Ruiz, Eric McCoy, and Trevor Penning on the line. I would not write off Spencer Rattler with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I would not write off Spencer Rattler with Alvin Kamara. And I would not write him off under the tutelage of Doug Nussmeier, Scott Tolzien, and Kellen Moore. So Shough will get a chance. He will have every opportunity, but Rattler will be in his way.
I think so. I mean, you just mentioned it. When's the last time you spent this early of a pick on a quarterback and your quarterback room's wide open?
Yeah, I mean, and look, this is not to say, like, sure, I hope Spencer Rattler works as hard as he can, gets as good as he can, and maybe he ends up being the guy. Maybe Shough's not that guy. I guess now, Mickey Loomis did say if Derek Carr is healthy, he's the starter. I guess we still don't know fully what the deal is with Carr's shoulder. He says him and the Saints are in constant communication, so we'll see. I mean, okay. Let's try to figure out the most true, which, by the way, okay, even though I'm excited about Shough because he's huge, he's athletic, and Kellen Moore likes him. Like, that's honestly the main reason, like I said, was my opinion, me next to Kellen Moore's. There is something deeply funny about taking a step back and looking at the Saints quarterback room.
It is the greatest reality TV show in sports. Maybe the Browns is like the crazier quarterback room, but like we're having this like how crazy is this, ladies and gentlemen? We're having this conversation, and it could all be unraveled if come off-season workouts or come training camp or whatever, if Derek Carr's Rolls-Royce Spectre rolls up on Airline Drive, if he gets out of that car, no pun intended, then he's the starter. How insane is that? And that is a real-life possibility. It is a real-life possibility. Like, everyone feels like the book is closed on Derek Carr, right? Like, everyone feels like Saints and Carr, the book is closed. Everyone's moving forward. I've seen people who are like, yep, I'm done talking about Carr. It's all Shough all the time now. I'm done talking about Carr. I've moved on. Okay. Well, we'll see about that whenever he shows up. Because all it takes is one conversation. So I've mentioned this before. I have mentioned before how, I've done crisis communication in the past and stuff like that. If I was advising Derek, I would tell him to show up in New Orleans. And I would tell him, this is your best chance of leverage. Because the Saints kind of would rather, I think, just let him pull a Carson Palmer, stay in Fresno, than this complete upheaval that would happen if he played or showed up. And if he does show up, I think it would expedite the Saints to try and trade him, which would get Carr what he wants. And Carr would save face because then Carr could say, I showed up. I was there. I did everything I could do. Right now, the big thing against Carr is that he's in Cali. So my advice to Derek, and I'm sure he's watching, my advice to Derek would be show up. If you really want to save face and get this stuff figured out for your brand, show up to Airline Drive. Now, simultaneously, it's the worst possible thing for the Saints. That makes the puzzle so much more difficult. Because now imagine if you're Kellen Moore. Right now, if you're Kellen Moore, you're thinking, okay, how do we develop Tyler Shough fast enough to where he can start week 1? Well, we'll also see what happens with Spencer Rattler. How quickly does that math change if Derek Carr shows up? Because then Kellen Moore's like, well, now I have to fast-track Derek. Now I have to fast-track him and teach him the offense and get him rolling. He's getting the first-team snaps, which takes away from Shough's first-team snaps, which makes Shough develop slower. Rattler all of a sudden is the third string. He's taking even less snaps. Hayner is working at PJs or something. Like, that could really throw a knuckleball into this whole thing. And even like how T-Bob is kind of saying, like, is Shough the guy? And it's almost like an afterthought of like, oh, yeah, well, I guess unless our highest paid player shows up. Yeah, I guess unless our actual franchise quarterback shows up, then he's the guy. it is a insane storyline to think about, and it could absolutely happen. It could absolutely happen that Derek's shoulder isn't as bad as thought, and he doesn't need surgery, and he's willing to play, and he shows up, and all of a sudden he's taking first-team reps. It'd be crazy.
Tyler Shough, Derek Carr, Jake Haener, and Spencer Rattler. The amount of money, time, and resources that went into producing that room is actually objectively kind of funny.
What's worse, that or trading for Kenny Pickett, signing Joe Flacco, trading for Shedeur Sanders, drafting Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, and paying Deshaun Watson $250 million? Because now, what if Kenny Pickett's your starter, Joe Flacco's your backup, Shedeur's 3rd string, you have to cut Gabriel completely with a 3rd round pick. Oh, and also the guy you're paying $250 million to isn't playing.
But let's talk about what we know for sure. Jake's out. Yes?
Yeah, Jake's out.
Jake's out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jake's out.
Jake's out.
We knew that with Rattler. When Rattler got drafted, we were like, all right, Jake's probably on the way out. When Jake played, dear God, we knew, okay, he's probably on his way out.
Good kid, but Jake's out.
Yeah, fun with the photo shoot he did there. Gave us a couple days of content.
Yeah.
Jake's out.
I don't think Derek Carr is going to be healthy.
I don't either.
I guess we can't know that, but if I'm trying to parse through it. So what does this mean then? Let's say Derek Carr, let's operate under the assumption that Derek Carr is not going to play game 1. Does Rattler start? But this isn't like a Tyrod Taylor to your young drafted quarterback situation.
He's younger. That's what's so crazy about this. Rattler is younger than Shough. So if you play Rattler, you ain't playing the vet. You're playing the young guy, which is insane. It's the craziest situation.
Since they're so kind of equivalent in some ways, Rattler and Shough. Or do you think Shough could be the starter there game 1, snap 1?
If he goes into camp and he's the best guy, he'll be the starter. It's no longer the early 2000s where you have to protect your quarterback and he's not going to play, and the veteran guy is going to get some run, and maybe in week 9 you can take that job over. That doesn't really happen anymore. Look at last year's class. I mean, Jaden, day 1 starter. Bo Nix was the day 1 starter. J.J. McCarthy was going to be the starter for the Vikings.
True.
I mean, Penix was really the only one, and that's because you had
it's because you had $175 million into Kirk Cousins.
A big free agent signing in Kirk Cousins that you had there. Caleb Williams, obviously, day 1 starter. So that's kind of the norm now. No longer do you have to, all these quarterbacks. I think Peyton Manning was like, remember how crazy that was that he was the starter?
Yeah.
Out of the guys, like the earliest one that I can remember.
And a good.
I mean, you go back, like I've had some people in the comments who are like, you don't have to start him. Like, look at Brett Favre, or look at this guy. It's like the times have changed. Like that. There is a clock now. A second rounder isn't that big of a deal, but you do have to play these guys early, and it's crazy to look at. As I mean, not even that long ago, where it was pretty routine to take a guy, let him sit for a year, 2 years. The idea that like Aaron Rodgers sat for 2 years, 3 years? Was it 3 years? That is crazy. The idea that Patrick Mahomes sat for a little bit, was it Carson Palmer? Carson Palmer, like they announced, like, hey, you're sitting for a year, like no questions asked. Like that's kind of crazy. Like, could you imagine if the Titans said, no, we're gonna roll Will Levis out there. Cam Ward will sit for the entire year, no matter what, and then he'll take over next year. That would be insane in today's day and age. So there is a totally different way of handling these quarterbacks.
Got a highlight because he threw about 80 picks that first year.
Still has the record. Yeah. But I can't really remember, like, going back to those days, like late 90s, early 2000s, somebody coming in and being the guy from Jump Street. But that's what it is now. Like, they expect you to be the guy. Now, those guys that I'm talking about were all first-round picks. But when you look, to Tay's point, at the quarterback room, it's poor.
Wow. It's
wild, man. It's wild. Same situation is crazy. It really is. It's good for me, though. A lot of content. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get on down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.